Welcome back to the Low Bottom High Rise podcast with me, your host, Moira Casava. And I have such a fun and special guest in the house today, Dr. Sarah. We're going to roll with
That's
this. We're
okay.
not even going to
It's
cut the recording here.
Relyea-Logan. But you know what?
Relyea-Logan.
Everybody just calls me Dr. Sarah because
It's difficult, just like my
it's
first
difficult.
and last
Relyea is
name.
my maiden name, and I have had it
Relyea. Is
the
it?
whole way through med school, the whole way
Yeah,
through residency, 30 years of family medicine. Nobody can pronounce it.
I love it. But it's the most beautiful name ever. Is it French?
It is French. It was Rhea, and then it became, which was originally O'Reilly in Ireland, and then
Oh,
they moved to the upstate New York, and the Dutch people couldn't pronounce it, so they said Rel-Yay. Very phonetic.
that that is amazing. Relyea. Dr.
And there
Sarah
was a Captain
Relyea.
Relyea in Charleston, by the way.
Oh, really?
Do you know about the Robert Smalls incident where he
That
was a
sounds very
pilot?
familiar.
He was a slave who was a pilot for a ship, and
Mhm.
he impersonated Captain Relyea and took the ship, went and picked up his family and some other family members on little islands like John's Island and out there.
Yeah.
I might be getting the story wrong. And then he took the ship and surrendered it to the North during the Civil War. I'm
Yeah.
Canadian. So you have to understand that's
Yes, during the Civil War.
yeah.
Yes, that
So
happened here in
Captain
Charleston.
Relyea was the poor captain whose ship was taken from him by a slave, but I think, yay.
Yeah, absolutely. And how
And then he was court-martialed, Captain Raleigh was court-martialed, and then he was lost at sea in the Bahamas. So I really think that he had a bunch of children and a wife in Charleston, and
yeah.
his reputation was a little bit, so I think
Dodgy.
he was actually probably just said, I'm going to stay in the Bahamas now.
Yeah.
And
Don't we all just want to go stay in the Bahamas?
that is totally like the theme that I wanted to talk to you about today.
Yes, I'm so excited because they're really, I mean, it's rare, I have to say, Sarah, that I get on a podcast like we should have started recording 20 minutes ago and we can't stop talking to each other,
I know,
right?
no. I
I'm in
probably should have
Charleston.
told you the Captain Relyea story, but
No, because this can go in so many different directions. Like we're gonna get together in person in Charleston and do this thing on a friendship
definitely.
level already.
Yeah,
I see
yeah,
it.
yeah.
I'm in Charleston, you're in Charleston. I'm just on the other
Mhm.
side of the bridge. So and we instantly have like a bajillion connections, and
Yeah.
somehow we don't know each other. But even before we started talking, I was going through kind of your website and your bio, and I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, I feel like I'm a little different, meaning like, no, I'm not everybody's cup of tea. I'm cut from a little bit of a cloth. And I'm like, I love like what you're talking about, right? Like
Mm.
just kind of the mindset part of where we were going in our conversation. I
Yeah.
love aesthetics. I love longevity.
Mhm.
I am obsessed with hormone health. Like it's this hodgepodge of kind of random things, but not random things that
Do you
most
want to be
people,
my new best friend?
right? I'm like, this is so crazy. And so you do all these things professionally, which
Yeah.
I'm like blown by. And so in the season of my life right
Yeah.
now,
Yeah.
it's kind of there, it's like this dichotomy between like, am I obsessing about these things in a great way? Or am I just so experiencing these things in a hard way
Yeah.
that I'm down the rabbit hole of all of them, right?
Well, the
So,
fact that you're even worried about, like, am I obsessing over this? Am I thinking about it too much? It's
right,
like a symptom of what you're going through, right?
right, right,
We're
right.
all trying to figure out, am I doing everything
Yeah.
to my best ability right now? Because I
Yeah.
want to live a really long time, and I
Yeah.
want to get the most out of every day, every moment
Yeah.
with my community, my friends, my family,
Mm.
myself, right?
Yes.
It's like falling in love with yourself again
Yes.
at this age.
Yeah.
And I'm lumping myself into the same age as you, but we don't have to talk about how old we actually are.
I just turned 47 last week. I
Okay,
kept forgetting.
55.
Everyone's like, "How old are you turning?" I'm like, I mean, I
I have
really
to think about it.
after
I
like
told someone I was
35, it's
57. I told
right.
someone I was 57, and I went, wait a minute. No, I'm not. I'm
Yeah,
only
no, it's not.
55. Like, why did I age myself 2 years? But it's just a number,
I
right?
love it. I love it.
Number.
Well, and I kind of, well, let's do this first.
Okay.
Who the heck are you? Well, what do you do professionally? What do you like?
Gosh.
What's your life look like personally? Let's just start there. So we can
Okay.
give people a snapshot into that.
So I am a family physician.
Mhm.
I'm a mom. I'm a farmer. Um, and I am an artist. And in 2023, I resigned from a corporate job, and that's all we're going to say about it,
Yeah.
where I was being told what I couldn't and couldn't do, what I could and couldn't do professionally, which was affecting me personally
Yes.
and affecting my patients, affecting my community. And I'm from Canada, and medicine in Canada, family doctors are like the pillars, right? Like,
Yeah.
we're not gatekeepers. We are the foundation of medicine, and it's free. And so when we're trained in Canada, we are supposed to memorize. I remember having to memorize the foundations of family medicine, which are,
Mhm.
let's see if I can remember them. The patient-doctor relationship is key to a person's health, right?
Mm.
The family doctor is a valued member of the community.
Mm.
We are supposed to advocate for the members of our community. And as you know, your community changes. Like, look at me. I'm a
Right.
Canadian living in Charleston. Um, and this is my community now.
Yeah.
And anyway, sorry, I could go on and on about this. There are other foundations which I can't remember, but I
That's
could
what
look them
happens
up.
when you
But
hit
that's so
menopause.
important to me. So I quit my job, I resigned,
Yeah.
and I was like, everyone's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I said, I don't know. I'm just going to do something different.
Yeah.
And at first I started up like an urgent care house call company because I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I don't have a space, and I don't want to open up a clinic. Like,
Yeah.
not what I'm all about. And so I did the house call thing, and quickly I determined that there was no way that I could run it out of my home.
Mm.
My husband and I have a blended family where only really 3 or 4 kids live with us,
Yeah.
but there are 8 dependents, two
Wow.
dogs, now 3 cats, 2 horses
Complete.
on James
Oh my
Island, like
gosh.
craziness, right?
Oh my
And
gosh.
so I was like, oh, I can't work from home. This is not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
And my friends who have the Italian store on Burns Lane were like, they were over for dinner and they said, we think you should come by the store this week. And this was in like April of 23. And I was like, why do they want me to come by the store? I love going to the store. Like, I
Yeah.
love sitting in that chair, talking to Donatella. Have you been there before?
No.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's closing, so you better come
Oh
soon.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah. So anyway, so I came to the store and they said the Pilates instructor has to go on bed rest and she's renting out 2 rooms in the back of the store. Would you like to look at them? And I said, absolutely. So
Yeah.
I get these 2 beautiful rooms and I was like, wow, this has a lot of potential. Maybe I'll just run the house call. Maybe I'll do hotel
Yeah.
house calls, right?
Right.
And then very quickly, the space upstairs where an esthetician was became available. So I
Mm.
got 3 more rooms that needed a huge renovation. So long story short, we renovated, and all of a
Wow.
sudden I had portico longevity. And I'm like,
Wow.
and it happened fast, but it also happened really slowly. And so everything that we added in, there's only really 4 people on our team.
Yeah.
They all happened organically,
Yes.
joined, and we're bringing on probably a nurse next week, and it's very exciting.
That
But
is
yeah,
very
so,
exciting.
so
And
we're doing all the Medi-Spa stuff,
yeah.
all the spa stuff, all the wellness stuff, hormone health, gut health.
Yeah.
We've had some seminars and discussion groups.
Yeah.
We can do special events here. The space is, it's kind of like, I get really excited about this. Do you remember Sesame Street and Oscar the Grouch's trash can?
Oh, yes.
And
Totally.
how you never got to see what was down there,
Right.
but he would go down and get stuff,
Yes.
like
Yes.
Snoopy's doghouse.
Yes.
Totally like that here. Like, you walk in the door and we're like, hi, welcome to Portico, right? And then they're like, yeah, I booked a facial.
Yeah.
Um, I'm here for my facial. And we're like, oh, great, have some tea, have a seat. There's no rush. And then they're like, what else is going on here? And I'm
Yes.
like, well, there is a cold plunge and a sauna down the hall. And I'll show
Love.
you that. And I said, Portico Megan, who's what I call Megan, the physician's assistant that works with me. I call her Portico Megan because she's like got it going on. She has a room upstairs. We've got lasers, we've got
Mm.
microneedling, we've got Botox, Xeomin, skin pen, PRP. It's
All the things.
all the
I
things,
don't
and
know
it
what
keeps
half of
growing.
those
Like,
are. I'm like, tell me what all those things are,
oh
please.
my gosh, like I think we should just get Portico Megan to tell you all about it because
Yes, yes, yes.
whenever I explain it, she'll like listen to the recording or whatever to be like, that's not what it. That's not
Right.
what it does. I'm like,
That's
what?
hilarious.
I read the studies. I said, read the same studies as you, and she's like,
Oh my gosh.
no, the latest study is,
Yeah.
we're very scientific about it.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is you can't separate the emotional and the spiritual side of what we do.
Right.
And it's just all a little bit of magic, right?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love
Yeah,
what
I
you
can't
just
wait for you
said.
to come visit us.
I can't wait either. Like I'm there. I'm coming this afternoon. I mean,
Too bad
when
the
you
bridge is like shut down right now.
right, right. I'll figure out a way.
Okay, take a boat. Take a boat.
Yes. But you said so much, right? You said it happened fast but slow, organically. And when you said organically, I was thinking, I would say divinely.
Mm,
And sometimes when I think
serendipitously.
divinely, right?
Yeah,
And then you say these things like the spiritual side,
yeah,
the
yeah.
magic, it's when you have somebody that's building something that is in tune with that frequency and kind of operating from that space and taking actions based on living from that energy, magic really does happen and the right people come into
Mm,
place and it is work, but it's a flow of work versus, pushing the boulder up the hill. And it just sounds like that's what's happened and you could have never probably drawn out on a business plan what you have, right?
no, I laugh when I look at the business plan that I went to the bank with in July. I still have to meet with them again and sort of go, hey, this is where we are now. Yeah, I wanted to buy the building, but didn't.
Wow. Wow. Because it's
Yeah,
all so interrelated.
it is.
There's such a fine line between kind of the wellness and self-care. And I have a cold plunge and sauna in my backyard. So you really are my people. There's such a fine line between that and the medical side of things, right? And the
Right.
aesthetic side of things and the
Yeah,
mental side of things and the emotional side of things. It's all one. Like it's
it is.
all
It
health
is.
and wellness.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we can't just pull out a thread and work on that piece and think that's going to be the solution,
Right.
right?
Like nobody could buy me out. Like there's
Yeah,
no way that I could ever have a real investor or a corporation try to replicate this and franchise this.
right,
Like,
right.
yeah, I'm probably going to open up some porticos maybe around the world.
Yeah,
The goal is to have one in Sicily, to have one in Richmond, to have one in Vancouver, to have one in Toronto, outside of Toronto probably.
yeah,
But but there's no way that anybody else could do it unless they do it organically.
right,
So
right,
people are sometimes like, are you giving away all your secrets? Like,
right.
isn't somebody else? And I'm like, nobody else could do
No,
this.
right. And
They could do
isn't
something
that,
better that meets
yeah,
the needs of their community,
right, right.
right?
Yeah. And that's
But
when you really find joy in your work,
yeah,
right? And purpose in the passion and
yeah,
all of that. God, I
yeah,
have so many questions because like I said, there's like five different things, even just with what you offer that we could
yeah,
go down the rabbit hole of. I want to ask you some specific questions that I feel like my audience and just every woman right now in her
yeah.
40s and 50s.
Is that your audience? That was my question for you is
Yeah,
who's the
yeah.
audience? Like,
I would say my audience is likely me, right? Women, female entrepreneurs that
yeah,
have businesses that are wanting to create impact, build income, all of that. So they're
yeah,
driven.
yeah,
But also we've just all of a sudden like rubbed up against this insane like change in really our body, our
yeah,
brain,
yeah.
our energy levels, our
Our family,
skin, like the family, everything. And
yeah,
I will tell you, and I always want to share this quick little nugget because a year ago, when everyone was talking about like, oh, this because of menopause, oh, this perimenopause, perimenopause, menopause, I was like, I'm just not going to subscribe to that story
right?
because the more I subscribe to that story, the more it becomes your reality. And I do believe in that brain
Yeah.
Like, you kind of get stuck in these loops, and I teach a lot of that. But when I really hit the wall and I could not deny, crazy cystic acne
Yeah.
breakouts that I couldn't
Yeah.
get under
You
control.
can't rewrite that story.
I can't rewrite that story. Couldn't rewrite you know, usually when I ate a certain way, I would drop 10 pounds, and I was eating that way and I gained 10 pounds. Like, what is
Yeah.
happening?
Yeah. It's
Can
crazy.
And I share this one little thing because I just feel like sometimes people need to hear the little details to go, okay, I'm not crazy.
Mhm.
My best friend, my very best friend, who is very much on social media all the time, and we tag each other back and forth in stories and stuff. I went to put, I went to tag her in an Instagram story, and I couldn't remember her last name.
Yep.
Just had a moment where I could not remember.
Yep. And the panic that sets in
Yeah, and
makes it even worse. And then you're never going to remember. You couldn't even remember her first name, probably.
right. And it's like, have I
Yeah.
literally lost my mind?
No.
And I had somebody else say I was really, really, like, very scared that I had early onset
Mhm.
Alzheimer's. Like,
I get that all
that's
the
how
time.
real this can be.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it was very sudden for me. But I would love for you to kind of talk about
Mm.
what that shift looks like for women. I know it's different for everybody, but also
Totally.
more importantly, what are the solutions? Like, that's what everybody's searching for, right? Like, in your area of expertise, in your world, and your knowledge and your wisdom, what do you see some of the solutions? How do we fix some of this stuff?
Oh, it's so simple, yet so complicated.
Mm,
And I'll start off with just one short story.
yeah.
I remember when I was in the back seat of a car when I was 12 or 13, so just hitting puberty. And a good friend of mine was another athlete. We were on our way to a tournament, and our coach, Edith Heyman from Brantford, Ontario, was driving with another woman, and they were both in their early 50s. And we were kind of like listening to their
Yeah.
conversation, which I don't think they realized that the kids in the back seat are, they might be looking like they're on their phones or talking, but
Right.
actually listening to you. This was pre-cell phone, so
Right.
we're talking a long time ago. And I distinctly remember the conversation being that my coach was telling this other woman that she had never felt more beautiful, more powerful in her entire life than when she was. And I remember looking at her. She was kind of pudgy. She had gray, frizzy hair.
Yeah.
She had a beautiful smile. And she was the best coach. I've played a lot of
Mm.
sports, but she was the best coach I'd ever had. No, I was
Yeah.
only 12 or 13, but she still is the best coach I've ever had.
Oh, I love
She
that.
said, women in their 50s, they have the wisdom, the power, and the tools to be the most beautiful women on the planet.
Mm.
And somewhere I stored that in the back of
Yeah.
my mind. And whenever I was, in my 20s in med school and residency, early practice, in my 30s, having babies, starting a new practice, move, whatever I was doing. I've delivered babies, I treat
Mm.
addiction, I've done palliative care, I've done it all. I always would think about it's possible to be the most beautiful woman in the world at that age of 50.
That's a story that I wanna grab a
Yes.
hold of,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yes.
And so the figuring out of how to get there is my own journey, right?
Yeah.
And and I learn from my mistakes. Like, look, I have a cast, right? This comes from trying to do things too quickly.
Right.
I won't, I told you the story. We don't have to talk about it now. But if you just slow down,
Yeah.
listen to other people, ask questions, don't surround yourself with people that have all the answers for you because nobody has the answers but you.
Right.
And just surround yourself with a trusted community of people that are also on the same journey of trying to figure out how to be your best self, how to love people better, how to love yourself better, how to feed yourself better,
Mm.
to move yourself in the best possible way. And it's going to change. Like you
Yeah.
might figure it all out this week, and
Yeah.
then guess what?
Right.
you've got a thyroid problem and it just
Right.
happened, or
Yeah.
you fall and you break your arm and you got to figure out how do you ask people for help? Like, I'm
Yeah.
terrible with that. Are you good at that, Moira?
Yeah. No, no, not at all. Do it
Like,
all, right?
my
You do it all.
husband washed my hair for
Oh
me
my
this morning,
God.
the first time he's ever had to do that for
Wow.
anybody.
Yeah.
I had to tell him how to do it. I had to ask
Yeah.
him to do it, right?
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if that's you have to figure out what your purpose is.
Right.
I didn't know what my purpose was professionally. I knew that my purpose at home was to be the best mom that I could be in a big blended family. How could I be the best wife possible?
Yeah.
How can I be the best physician possible? How can I be the best boss? Now that I
Mm.
have people that work with me, I don't say
Yeah.
for me, but with me. Um,
I love that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? I'm
Yeah. It
sorry.
it
Like,
real I want yes. I get this, right? Like I get that it's bigger on the foundation than
yeah,
people expect, right? So I totally hear every single
yeah,
word.
yeah.
So taking that a step further from the
Okay,
from the medical side,
right.
that you probably get so many women coming in, right,
Yeah,
that are in our age range that say, I just hit a wall.
yeah,
I feel lethargic. I've gained weight.
yeah.
I, I have the brain fog. I feel like everything's shifting
I'm not
physically.
sleeping. I'm not,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
all those things.
Where do you start? Because I'm sure there's a path where you got to figure things out, like where, there's some diagnostics, right, that have to
Right.
happen. But where
Yep.
do you start people on that journey to say,
It's
hey,
a
we're going to start here?
it's an algorithm.
Yeah.
Um, and so I'm such a blend of science and art. And it's like a painting. Like, where do you start when you want to do a beautiful oil painting? You got to start with a foundation, so a
Mhm.
backdrop, like a gesso, is it
Yeah.
black gesso? Is it white gesso? With a medical patient, I just my first goal is to make them feel comfortable.
Yeah.
So I have to really listen. And then I have some key questions that I like to ask. My favorite question is the miracle question, right? So this was taught to me by some family medicine mentors early in my career. So if I had a magic wand and I
Mhm.
could wave it for you, Moira, and magically all of your symptoms disappear, what would you be doing differently?
Mhm.
Right? And I go,
Yeah.
don't answer me now. Think about it. Because it's not an
Yeah.
easy question to answer. So if someone did that for me, when oh gosh, I'm trying to think. Maybe that's not a good example. Let me think of a patient example. Um,
It's
there was a,
powerful though, because you're not
it's so
focused on the
powerful.
the the symptom, you're focused on
The solution,
right, right.
because you
Yeah.
get them there themselves, because I'm not telling them what the solution is, or I want to know why they want all their symptoms fixed. So if
Right.
you told me that you wanted your brain fog to go away, and if it did, if I had a magic wand and I could just make it go away, what would you do differently? You would say, I don't know, what would you say to me? If your brain
Yeah.
fog is better, or maybe it's better now, maybe you've done
Well,
something.
and mine is way better, but I would say at the time I would be able to work more productively. I'd be able to get more done. I'd be able to be more successful and hit goals and things like that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So then, so you asked yourself probably that question, and did you make some big changes
Oh
to get
yeah.
there?
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you mentioned
So,
cold plunge and sauna.
well, and yeah, that those have always been at the foundation of kind of just my health regimen. But
Right.
for me, and this is kind of where I sometimes get experience frustration with other people that are kind of in the struggle. I'm just such an action taker, right? So it's like, I'm going to do this. And if it doesn't fix itself, then I'm going to try this. And if that doesn't
Yeah.
work, then I'm going to try this. And so it got to a point where I thought, okay, all the things that I'm used to doing and working aren't working anymore. So now it's time, like now I need to go see somebody, right? Like, let's get the hormones checked. Let's figure out where things are that
Yeah.
I can't measure. And
Yep.
let's, ask, what do we do from here? If this is where all the
Yeah.
levels are,
Yeah.
let's take that next step. And so I think it was a combination of a whole lot of things because I was trying 18 million different things at once.
Yeah, desperate, right?
Right,
Me, when
right,
I was a first-time mom and I had a problem with them sleeping
right.
through the night, I went to the bookstore and I put every single book on
Yes.
helping your child sleep through the night in there. I called every friend of mine. I was one of the first ones to have a baby. I was
Yeah.
like, help me, I'm gonna try
Yeah.
it all.
Yeah.
And then when I just slowed down and I picked the one method to start off with that I thought made the most sense after I did my
Yes.
research, we tried it and it worked, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
then kid number 2 tried it,
Right.
didn't work. Okay,
Right.
go back to the drawing board, do your research. So, yeah, like I think that a family physician or a what's the word? A physician or a medical provider, a physician's assistant,
Mm.
anybody, a naturopath, they need to help you help yourself.
Yes.
And changing habits is a huge
Mhm.
thing, but I can't tell you which habits to change or how to
Right.
change them. I can help you discover that yourself, right? Because
Right.
often you already know, right? You're like,
Right.
oh, whenever I have a glass of wine, I don't sleep through the night.
Right.
No brainer. Don't have a glass of wine then, right?
Right. But we're not slowing down enough to become aware. We're going so fast
Mhm.
and things are falling apart so fast that we end up at the medical doctor or the nutritionist or the
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
And I always think this is so crazy to me because I've been in the world of, fitness and nutrition for a long time where people are desperate to lose weight. And so they're looking to the outside. They're asking somebody else, tell
yeah,
me what to eat.
yeah,
Give me a food
yeah,
plan. Like that's so normal in the world of
right.
nutrition. Give me a meal plan. And I'm like, okay, I get that there might be able to be somebody that can guide you in like
Yeah, but they're not in your
generalities.
body. They don't
But
know
yeah,
what your body needs.
yes. I'm like,
No,
this is
I know.
kind of crazy. Like, so you're going to give me a meal plan and I'm going to choke down food I might hate because you're
Yeah,
telling me to eat it. Like, there has to be a coming together of
yeah.
knowledge and wisdom and guidance with the intuition of the person, right? With the
It's like a
awareness.
village. It's like
Yes.
you have to form a village around you. Like if we think back to, you know, times long ago, but there are villages that exist like this in Sicily, where I'm going to end up living. You have your wise people in the family, in the village, who slow down because they have to. Maybe their legs
Yeah.
don't go as fast as they used to, and they sit on chairs. And you go and you sit down next to them, and you say, Tia or Zia, whatever language you're speaking, auntie, uncle, I don't know what to do. I have this problem.
Yeah.
Oh, let's talk about it. Let's slow down and talk about it. That's all
Yeah.
you are, is you're like a trusted
Mm.
advisor.
Yeah.
There has to be that trust there. You have to be able to tell them everything, and they have to be able to be honest with you, and you have to be honest with them back.
Yeah.
It's a
And we just miss that in American culture so much. I always look back on the years that I had little kids,
yeah.
and it was so hard. It was so hard.
Oh, those
It
are
was
dark
so
days, right?
sweet, right? It's so sweet to look back on
Beautiful, but
photos,
dark.
but
Beautiful, but
dark. Dark, and for so many years I used to think this is my one complaint with God. Like, why? It shouldn't be that hard. And then I really kind of quickly realized we did it to ourselves, right? Like I believe are meant to live in that community
yes.
where my mom and my grandmother and my husband's
Yeah,
mom and my husband's grandmother and I can go to work because my child is being loved by the extended family. I'm not paying out thousands of dollars in childcare,
yeah.
shuffling them to some program. It's like we've just created our own burnout. And it really breaks my heart because still every single time I see a new mother, my heart kind of breaks for her because I don't think there's many people doing it well. It's just in our society, it's so hard. It's so hard.
Oh, I could talk to that for hours and hours and hours. I've had lots of babies and I've delivered babies, right? So I've
Yeah.
watched these new families form, and families where there's multiple kids, and just the stress. And then you see the ones where, I've had deliveries where there's been 4 generations at the delivery great grandma, grandma, mom, and mom to be, and then the baby. So probably 5
Wow.
generations. And sometimes they do it well,
Yeah.
sometimes they really do support each other. And then sometimes there's a lot of drama. So,
Yeah.
that's you want to be in the village, but then sometimes you
Right.
need to be
I
a little
totally
love.
get that too.
I
I
get it
totally
too.
get that too.
Yeah. So I don't know. There's so much that we could talk about.
Yeah.
So
I'm
back to the
curious.
hormones and back to what do you do?
Yeah.
Talking, a lot of listening, a lot of gaining trust, a lot of observing, like it's almost like Sherlock Holmes, like you do a physical exam, but you're doing the physical exam when they walk in the door
Right.
already.
Well,
Obs-
you are. Not all
Yeah.
doctors are. So I
Um,
applaud you in that.
I haven't always. I mean, there's been
Yeah.
times where I was told you've got to see 30 patients in a day. And so if you do the math, that was
Yeah.
like 5 minutes a patient at one point. Um,
That's so
and
crazy.
I remember just sometimes just breaking down and crying because I
Yeah.
was like, I did not give that patient my best self.
Yeah.
I've even been like grumpy with people, and I probably put
Sure.
people off,
Absolutely.
you
Well, I
know,
get it. I mean, that's just how our
awful.
healthcare system, unfortunately, is set up. My mom is a nurse practitioner, and she's she's also kind of a medicine woman. She's always had both sides of the spectrum, like Eastern, Western. So I grew up with that.
Yeah.
And I also grew up with the voice, though, of, just her advocacy of that relationship with doctor patient,
Yep.
and also now seeing her at a very old age, kind of very much declining in her last years and having to
Mhm.
go to so many medical doctors. And I see how much it pains her to not have those relationships and to not have
Yeah.
that presence of she's seen so many different doctors at this
Where is
stage.
she?
She's
Where?
here, actually. She's in
Yeah.
Mount Pleasant at an assisted living, and she's great and she's so sweet. She always says, I'm like, "How are you feeling?" She's like, "I'm good. I just have the dwindles." So
Aw,
everything's dwindling, but that's what she calls it. I just have the dwindles.
that's
But
one
I
way of
see
looking
that.
at it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. She would absolutely love you. I mean, so
Can't wait
much
to meet your
so.
mom.
Let's
My
do
new
it.
best friend's mom.
Let's do it. Yes. Yes. So talk to me about this. I'm curious, at
Yeah.
your age and stage, what does your regimen look like when it comes to
Yeah.
health and self-care and
Yep.
hormones and all of that? And I know I'm curious, but
Yeah.
also stating that your regimen is not necessarily the right regimen for anybody
Exactly.
else.
Yeah.
But
It's
what does
just
that look
one
like?
that's I've figured out for myself.
Yeah.
But right now, I would say it's working. I'm sleeping well at night. I feel like I have lots of energy. Some days I don't, and I take a nap.
Yeah.
Um, I've so I guess if I could boil it down into, I did a little seminar on building your own personal blue zone, right?
I have to just pause really quickly
What?
because what
What?
you just said, you know how we're like, it can be so simple, but yet it's so complicated? What you just said was most days I have a lot of energy, and on the days I don't, I take a nap. Like, such common sense. But our society, I mean, I know you get this, that like other people that would not come to them. They'd be like,
Right.
I'm exhausted.
Oh,
I don't have any
believe
energy.
me.
What's wrong with me? What pill can I take? What thing can I do? And it's
Yeah.
like, maybe you just need to take a nap. I love that you said that because you take a nap, you get enough rest, then the next day your energy's back up.
I just met with a patient this morning. It was our first meeting, though we've met in other capacities in the spa, right?
Yeah.
Like, but it was our first meeting as, I'm a family doctor or I'm a
Right.
physician and we're talking about hormones and stuff. And I said, when do you feel the best? And she goes, when I'm on vacation. And I was like, so tell me about your vacations. She goes, well, there's a 4-hour lunch hour. You
Mm,
know, I love
yeah.
to sit and talk with my friend or my loved one and I have a
Yeah.
meal and it lasts 4 hours. And I was like, so how do you get more 4-hour meals in your life?
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
That's
love
so
that.
I think I try and I'm always failing to slow things down every day. And I try to get into healthy habits. So my current healthy habits are get a good night's sleep and do everything to make sure that I do. So I don't drink much anymore. I probably
Yeah.
have 1 glass of wine a week.
Yeah.
maybe 2, depending
Yeah.
on the week. I would never have it without food,
Mhm.
and I would never have it late at night because that's gonna affect my sleep.
Sure.
I'm 55, I've been in menopause for about 4 years, I think.
Yeah.
I currently am doing a compounded, very tiny dose estrogen and progesterone cream because that's all I needed.
Yep.
I rub a little bit of that in every day and I'll have my levels checked. I've only been doing that for a couple months. It's made a huge difference in my life.
Yeah.
And it was kind of like this moment where I was like, I've been doing that for other people
Right.
for a while. And one of my best friends in Canada was like, "Hey, yeah, I went and saw my Canadian doctor and he did some tests and talked with me for a long time and he put me on some hormone replacement." She said it wasn't instant. She goes, "I've never felt better." And I thought,
Really?
maybe I should do that. Do you think?
Yeah.
So
And
I
can
did
I
that.
ask what improved? Like what felt better?
Everything. But
Yeah.
the main thing was that anxiety
Mm.
and brain fog combination, which is deadly, right? Because you're
Yeah.
confused, but you're also anxious, which makes the confusion worse. Like you were saying,
Right.
you could
Right.
remember your best friend's
Yeah.
last name. I've been on the phone calling my best friend and I'm like, it's not going very well. It's a bad day. I was late for this and I can't do this and I didn't do this and I don't know what to do. And I've lost my phone. And she goes, no, you haven't. You're talking to me
Oh
on
my
your phone right now.
gosh. I
Yeah.
get it. I get
Oh
it.
yeah. Okay. So I'm going to hang up my phone now and I'm just going to breathe. So breathing exercises are the other thing that I do, not on a schedule anymore.
Yeah.
But I would have done them on a schedule at a time when I was like, I really need to breathe. So I'm going
Right.
to schedule it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like a habit.
Yeah.
Now it's just if I find myself elevating
Mhm.
into that anxiety or uh, confusion. And the other thing I do is I cold plunge and I sauna.
How often?
Um, it varies.
Yeah.
It's I know when I need to do it, and my
Yeah.
everybody that's around me in my life knows, and I'll be like, "Yeah, you know what? I think it's time to head to the cold plunge and the sauna. So I'm gonna go turn it on." So I'll turn it on, and then already I can just feel my cortisol
Yeah.
going down, my adrenaline going down, and I get a dopamine rush even thinking about cold plunge.
Yeah.
Are you the
Yeah.
same?
Oh, yeah, yeah, and it's so crazy to me. It's probably a blessing that yours is at your office because it's kind of like you gotta do it when you're at work. You can't the fact that mine's at my house makes it so easy to be like, n actually, I'll do it later," or
I'll do it
"Actually, I'll do it
later.
first thing in the
Yeah,
morning. Actually, I'll do it," and so I always push it off. I was just in El Salvador for a week, and we cold plunged, like, every day,
yeah.
and it felt amazing to the point where I'm like, "What is wrong
Why
with
don't
me?
I do
Why?"
this every day? Yeah, yeah.
Right.
Well, I
Yeah.
moved one to the house,
Oh, you
but it
did?
broke. So,
Oh,
but I'm kind of glad
yeah.
because I was putting off doing it at work because I was like, well, when I go home, I'll do it.
Exactly.
But then the one at home is broken. So I'm like, nope,
Yep.
I'll just call the family and I'll say, remember I said that I thought we were going to eat dinner around 6 or
Yeah.
6:30? It's going to be more like 7 or 7:30 and that table better be set and the dishes better be unloaded from the dishwasher when I get home because I'm going in the cold plunge.
Yes.
So it's
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
so the other thing I've gotten better at that makes me feel healthier is asking for help and delegating.
Yes.
So that's that.
Yes.
I've gotten rid of probably not people, that sounds really negative, but I've surrounded myself with people that feel the same way about life,
Yes.
have
I get that.
similar goals.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's, I mean, it's everything. It's really, it is, I just don't think we hear about it all the time. It's totally cliche to
No.
say,
Yeah, I know
but
what it
it's
is.
there's so much truth. I always say if there's a cliche, that means it's true. Like that's why it becomes
That's
a
a good
cliche.
saying.
It's like
Yeah, I
what
feel
like
bad when I use all these cliches,
well,
but
we know it because I'm parenting teenagers, and so it's
oh
so
my,
evident, right?
yeah.
It's like, oh, you had a drink the other night, but that doesn't ever happen when you're with this group of people. It only happened when you were with this group of people. And it's just so obvious as a parent. But
Yeah.
sometimes we don't realize because we also are in relationships that have a lot of longevity to them.
Right.
So we think that we can't just change things, but you can shift, right?
Anybody can shift.
You can spend less time. You can spend more time. You can
Yeah.
be intentional about the people that just simply make you feel good when you're around them,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Somebody very wise said to me when I was 33, she was a counselor that counseled people for shoplifting. She
Oh,
was like
yeah.
court mandated counseling for shoplifting.
Wow. Talk
And I
about
just happened to meet
niche.
her in another. I wasn't a shoplifter, I promise. Didn't flee Canada. I'm not a convicted shoplifter. No, she told me that the basic of her counseling was act, don't react.
Mm,
So again, if you apply that to everything, shifting and changing habits is acting instead
yes.
of reacting.
Yes.
And when you're parenting teens, oh my gosh, you
Yeah.
cannot react to them.
Right.
They will push your buttons all day long,
Yes.
right? But you can
Yeah.
act. You can
Right.
say, I'm planning ahead and I know that this situation is going to come up.
Yep.
And this is how I plan to act.
Yes.
And I'm going to
Yes.
be calm and I'm going to be fairly unemotional. They might even call me cold, but
Hmm.
it is the best thing for them,
Right. Right.
which is the best thing for me, ultimately,
Absolutely.
a parent.
I mean, I love all these tangents we're going on because the way that I always kind of respond in those moments of like, I'm going to strangle you, or I'm angry,
Yeah.
or I feel like you're taking advantage of, or you're not respecting me, is we're going to talk about this in the morning. And they're like, oh, dear God. You know? But I know that nothing good is going to come of it if I
So,
react in that
yeah.
moment.
They're going to get a horrible punishment that you
Y-
won't be able to enforce, right?
Right, right. I literally almost did this 2
You're
nights
going to
ago.
boarding school.
Right, right.
I can't
Yes,
afford boarding school. I don't really want to send them away. I kind of love them.
totally, totally. Oh my gosh.
Okay, sorry. We keep going on all these
No, I
tangents.
love it though.
So what is my routine? Okay, so what I put in my body, I
Mm,
try to make it be as close to the earth as possible.
yeah.
So freshly grown food, animal or fish that's been raised in a sustainable, healthy
Mm.
way. Um, water, we've got this. Have you had the Okani water yet?
Okani?
Yes,
I've had a
Okani.
lot of different waters.
Oconee. I'm a terrible speller. Thank God for spell check.
So am I.
Um, so it is a water. I should go get you the jug, but I'd have to leave the room, so I won't.
Yeah.
Um, it's from the upstate of South Carolina, and remember, I'm
Oh,
Canadian, so it's hard for me to with all these terms. It is friends of ours that went to school. Their son went to school with my son in the 8th grade, like 8 years ago. They bought a piece of land up there. It's near Greenville or somewhere up there.
yeah.
And it comes from so deep in the earth. It's an artesian spring. It's the
Wow.
only one that's been licensed to bottle the water in all of South Carolina.
Wow.
It tastes amazing. They don't have to filter it. They don't have to add anything to it or subtract anything to it. It is pure water and they bottle it in 1 gallon glass jugs. So it's
Oh,
not in
that's
plastic,
nice.
right?
Yeah.
I keep
Yeah.
saying to them, please give me a 5 gallon glass jug. And they're like,
Right.
not going to happen. Not going
Right.
to happen. We're not going through that
Right.
whatever regulations to get to use a different
Yeah.
system or whatever. So anyway, you get it in 1 gallon. The problem is once you've had that water, you
Mm.
can't drink anybody else's water. Like
There
we're on
is,
well water. It's
yeah,
terrible. It tastes
there's so
terrible.
much truth to that. We had a Kangen machine for a long time. And every time I would drink other water, it was like I was drinking chlorine. Like,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's crazy that you're like, you can't taste that.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not taste that?
Yeah. And then your
But,
mind starts to race and you're like,
oh,
what else am I drinking in here?
right.
Like does it have
Right.
plastics in it and with
Yeah.
ocean and then, oh my gosh. Yeah.
Oh,
So I try to, whenever possible, use that water. So I even make my coffee with that water, my tea with that water. I drink a lot of tea and water and coffee. Like coffee's been shown.
yeah.
I wrote
Yeah.
an anti-aging article. It's the only, as a professor of medicine, it's the only published peer-reviewed article that I've ever published, and it was on anti-aging. And I laugh at some of the things. So I'm not going to give you the link to the journal that it's in because I don't want anybody to read it.
Oh my gosh.
But one of the things was that coffee
Yeah.
actually prolongs your life, and it's not the caffeine. So you can have decaf coffee and it'll still prolong your health span. It'll
Oh,
extend
wow.
your health span. It's all the antioxidants in it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Stops up the free radicals. And also, I think the pleasure that I get from drinking
Yes.
coffee is
Yes.
phenomenal. So
Yes.
there's that.
Yeah.
I don't drink a lot of alcohol, like we've already talked about.
Yep.
And I probably have meat once a week and and farm usually wild caught fish 1 day a week.
Yeah.
And then it's all plant-based otherwise.
Wow.
Yes, I do have some cheese. Yes, I do
Yeah.
have some milk, but I try to do some coconut milk and some almond milk.
Right. Right.
Whenever possible, I try to do organic. I am incredibly blessed with incomes. We're a double income family,
Yeah.
which is a good thing when you have 8 dependents. But
Yes.
we have enough money that I can go to the grocery store or I can order something online that's delivered that is organic or
Yeah.
fresh. We get the community supported grocery,
Yeah.
look at your grocery. We get that delivery once a week.
That's awesome.
And I try to use up everything. Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm like, kohlrabi, really? Like,
I know. Like, what is this? What am I supposed to
so
do
I
with
feed it
this?
to the chickens, which are in our backyard, I'll shred it up and feed it to the chickens.
Oh,
We do eggs. I'd probably do like, I read some evidence that 4 eggs a week is for some people is okay.
yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't
I
know.
know.
I'm not
I
an
know.
expert.
We're just doing the
You know,
best we can,
do the
right?
best you
But
can.
but even just hearing you say that, there's probably so many shifts that, you know, I think anyone listening can make
Yeah.
because again, I think we get so down and focused on the negative
What we're
feelings,
doing wrong. What
what
we're
we're
doing
doing
wrong.
wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're focused on just how we feel. And we're so desperate, like you said earlier, we're so desperate because we have the brain fog or we have the weight gain or we have the this. And we're just in our society quick to think, what
Yeah.
can a doctor give me to
Yeah.
shift, to change this? When really we hold so much power with
Yeah.
what we eat, with what we drink, with how we rest, who we surround ourselves with, like all of those things
Yeah.
are creating the physical,
So true. It's so true.
right?
It's so simple, but it's
Yeah,
not easy. And it's
right,
easier if you, again, are surrounded by those supporting people that are asking you the good questions,
right.
offering to help you, or, you know, willing to help you
Yeah,
when you are willing to ask for help, right?
yeah,
That's why this happened.
yeah.
Because I've been, since this was Friday night, what are we, Wednesday? And everyone's like, well, are you going to cancel the podcast? Are you going to like cancel your patients? Are you going to do this? And I was like, no, I'm just going to ask for help. And I'm
Right.
going to, and so, yeah, my husband washed my hair for me today. I don't know. They're all at the house doing things, getting ready for the dinner that I'm having tonight.
Isn't
My
that
husband's like, you're
awesome?
not going to cancel the dinner. I was like, why would I cancel the dinner? We can pick up
Right.
some food and you can clean the house with the boys because it's your week off. He has week on, week off.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Wow.
they call me the Viking around the house.
Oh my
But sometimes I
gosh.
need to be a softer Viking. I'm
Right.
trying.
Right.
Trying to
I
be,
know. I know. We could have a whole long 4-hour long lunch over
yeah.
that conversation
And maybe we
because
should, right?
maybe we
Maybe
should,
we should.
right? Kind of tapping more into this feminine energy versus the
Yes.
masculine. Yeah, there's
Yes.
a whole rabbit hole there that we can go down.
Yes. There was something I was
Yeah.
gonna come full circle on the miracle question.
Yes.
So you were saying that most people are bogged down by the feeling, like I feel so bad, I can't even get out of bed to go talk to somebody about it or
Yeah.
turn on my phone to talk to somebody about it. And so the miracle question is what I ask somebody when I'm even like overwhelmed by their symptoms or their problems. I'm
Yeah.
just, oh my God, I don't even know where to start. So
Right.
the miracle question, right?
Yeah.
So what you do is you say, if I wave my magic wand and you were feeling better and all your problems went away, what would you be doing differently? And sometimes they say the craziest, simplest things. They're like, well, if I was feeling better, I probably would take my dog for a walk, right? And then they go on it, and then they're like, then I would go to the gym, and then I would do this, and then I'm like, whoa, 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 slow down. So you're saying that if you were feeling better, you would take your dog for a walk. How would you feel after that walk? Oh, whenever I walk my dog,
Yeah.
I feel so much better. And I'm like, so then we do have a whole appointment, and there's lots of things that we do, and then we come up with a plan. And then I said, so your homework is, I want you to go home and walk the dog,
Yeah.
right? Because you were feeling good enough that you could get here to
Yes.
the office today or to the spa. So when you go home, I bet you that dog's gonna really love to go on a little walk with you. It doesn't have to be
Mhm.
long, 5 minutes,
Right.
around the block, down the steps and back up, but just do it. And 9 times out of 10, they'll come back and they'll be like, you know what? I started taking the dog for a walk every day. Now
Mhm.
I'm doing it twice a day, and I feel
Yeah.
so much better. It's like in doing it, you feel better.
Right. I can't help but think with so many women experiencing just the effects of perimenopause and menopause, so many of them, I think the answer to that question would be, I would love myself more. If I didn't have this
Oh,
extra weight, if I didn't have this thing, if I didn't have
that's gonna
that,
make me cry. Stop.
right? Well,
It's so true.
it's so true. And despite any symptom, we can choose to love ourselves more today.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
like we can go walk the dog today.
Yeah, I went to an immersion with this fantastic group in Texas called Natural Lifemanship, and that's
Mm,
a whole other podcast.
yeah.
But at one point, one of the instructors said, now, Sarah, do you think you could just give yourself a little hug? It was
Mm,
like in a Texas accent. I can't do
yeah.
it. And so
Yeah.
it's just like, and it felt so good. I'm like,
Yeah.
why don't I do this all the time?
Yeah.
But we
Oh,
don't.
I love that so much because we don't slow down enough, right?
Yeah, to
And
slow
that
down and go.
is,
Probably need a little hug.
yeah. And that's the beauty of being in this season that some feel coming full circle again. That
Mhm.
is like the worst season to be in because they're experiencing all these physical, troubles. But we also have to recognize this beautiful part of us that is ready to slow down a little, that wants to slow down a little, that wants to spend time catering to kind of the personal relationship with ourself, the spiritual connection that we have, like all of those things that really are the things that are going to matter at the end of our lives
Gonna
versus
lead to all the other things.
right versus
Right.
what we've been chasing
Yeah,
for the last few decades. Like we're going to look back and go, good gosh, that was not fun.
that
Like
was a waste of time.
right. Right.
Do you ever
Right.
remember thinking like, oh gosh, I was like 5 pounds too heavy in that picture or whatever? And now I look back at those pictures and I go, damn, I looked good, you know?
Right. Right. Yes,
Why did I even give it a
absolutely.
moment's thought of
Right.
what I looked like or what I
Yeah.
weighed or I mean, it's like, I looked
Yeah.
fantastic, you
Yeah.
know? Maybe I looked a
Absolutely.
little tired, okay?
Right.
There is
Oh.
on the menopause thing. I was invited in Toronto early on in my career. I was probably 30, to the Somalian Community Center. A
Hmm.
group of women wanted me to come talk to them about menopause because they didn't understand what menopause was. They spoke English for the most part. The older women in the group who had come over to Toronto from Somalia did not speak a lot of English. And the beautiful thing about Toronto and Canada in general is that it is not a melting pot. You do not melt your culture. You can have and embrace your culture.
Hmm.
So they were able to live and not learn how to speak English. They didn't have to
Wow.
pass an English test to get
Yeah.
citizenship or a visa or whatever. Anyway, they asked me to come speak about menopause. So this is how it goes. I prepared, I had all these notes. I was like, we are going to teach these women about, they want to know about menopause.
Right.
I'm going to teach them. What do I know about menopause? I went through medical school. I'm having babies. I'm like
Yeah.
exhausted. I'm trying to work, set up a practice. So we start off, and they had a translator there, a young Somali woman who spoke English and Somalian perfectly. And she starts off, she said, well, first of all, most of these women don't even know what menopause is. Can you translate that for them? And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, oh, there's no word in the Somalian dialect for menopause.
Wow. Wow.
And I was like, well, let me think about that. Well, traditionally in medicine, we say it's when you haven't had a period for, I think, 11 months.
Right.
You know, you might have a little period, but anyway, it's when your periods stop and you don't bleed anymore.
Yeah.
And their eyes lit up, like I could tell they were understanding what I was talking about. And they're like, oh, so you mean when the bleeding stops, that's menopause, right? And I was like, yeah. And like a lot of people with menopause, they get hot flashes, they don't think clearly. And I tried to describe all that, and they don't sleep well. And their faces were like
Yeah.
glazed. They're like, oh, we don't have that problem.
Really.
I was like, what? No, it's the greatest time of your life. No more bleeding, no more babies, no more, yeah. I was like, don't you get a little grumpy sometimes? And they're like, oh yeah, you don't want to have sex as much anymore, or you get a little irritated, but everybody just needs to understand that that's just the way it is. And
Wow.
if they don't like it, they can just take off. They can just go away. It was amazing. And
Oh
I think it has a
gosh.
lot to do with their diet and
Yeah.
a lot of vegetables, not a lot of meat, the
Yeah.
traditional Somali diet. They're
Right.
like hunter-gatherers,
Yeah.
shepherds. Yeah, we could go on and on about it, but isn't that a great story?
That's
And
amazing.
so I think that I was the one that came home with all the education from
Right?
the menopause talk with the
Oh
Somali
my
community
gosh.
women.
I
But yeah.
love that. I love
Yeah.
that. And I think, gosh, I mean, I could talk to you for another hour and we're like already an hour in. So we should
Okay.
probably wrap, but I feel like that's such a beautiful, beautiful story to where I kind of feel about all of this. It's like there is a time, 100 million%, and I have been there and you have been there, where you
Yeah.
go seek medical help, where you go, okay, I need another voice. I need
Yeah.
somebody to help guide me. I need somebody to
Yep.
partner with that can tell me things that I don't know what I don't know. But
Yeah.
then there's this other side that what we're saying is there's an intuition. There's a lot that you know that you're not giving yourself credit for, and you have so many of the answers within yourself.
Yeah.
And so, maybe do both, or maybe start with the intuition and the inside stuff. But it's not just a go outside of myself and fix me doctor.
Yeah.
It's you have to do that inside stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like that is such a huge piece of this.
And if you're too weak and you're too sick to do that for yourself, then I think that part of my role as a physician as a medical provider, is to like really point that out and say, this is
Yeah.
what I need you to start doing. But I'm seeing and I'm sensing and I'm hearing from you that you can't even get out of bed.
Yeah.
So what can we do? How can we lift you up? How can we strengthen you up until you get to that stage?
Yeah.
So I've
Yeah.
been in that position, you
Yeah.
know, and yeah, and in doing it here now, it's possible. It
Yeah.
feels so much more possible.
Yeah.
Really are changing what's possible.
I love that
Yeah.
so, 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 so much. Oh my gosh. Well, Dr. Sarah, thank you. I am coming
Oh,
over
thank
that
you.
bridge and I'm going to find you and we're going to do lunch and I'm coming to the practice and all the things. I'm going to drop all of your contact information in the show notes so everybody in the greater Charleston area can also find you.
Oh,
Um,
thank you. Oh gosh, I
absolutely.
better get another,
I know.
get another receptionist. I better,
Yes. Get ready.
don't
Get
call
ready.
at once, please. No,
Oh
well,
my gosh. But thank
we'll
you
take
so
it
much.
slow. We'll take
Yes.
it slow.
And thank you. And I want to leave anybody, like you said just now, it's something that I heard when I was so desperate in my early recovery from alcoholism, which is a totally different story that we also
Yeah,
connect on.
but related, but
Yes.
related.
Yeah. You don't have to feel this way anymore. You
Yeah.
don't, if you are in that rock bottom place physically, emotionally, mentally, all the things, you don't have to feel that way anymore. There is a solution. There are people that can help you. Dr. Sarah is one of them. So reach out. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, I hope that they do.
Yes. Well, thank you a million times
No,
over for
thank you.
being
This has been so
here.
much fun. Let's do it again.
Absolutely. Let's do it again. We're going to do it
Okay.
again. Thank you so much for your time and your wisdom and your knowledge. And like I said, everything will be in the show notes. So make sure you guys check it all out there. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next week.